Good day, everybody. Too Easy for Z coming at you with initial configuration of the Raspberry Pi, how to download the operating system, how to get the operating system onto a micro SD card, verifying some of the information in there, also leveraging the internet sharing capabilities of your Mac to be able to get your Raspberry Pi onto the network without having another additional network connection. Additionally, where we're gonna go from there is we're gonna set up the Raspberry Pi 3 initial setup. Show you how to expand the micro SD card, change some of the hostname configuration passwords, update the operating system itself, and also how to launch the VNC service that comes natively with the latest Raspberry Pi operating system itself. So from here, let's move on. We're going to go to the website where we could actually download the image file itself. It's in a zip format. And from what you can see here, you could see the raspberrypi.org website. There's a couple of ways that you can download this, the operating system itself. So you're going to go to the Downloads tab and then navigate over to the Raspbian OS, and you have two different versions. You have the light version and you have the Pixel version. This one has the full desktop operating system, as well as some of the applications for OpenOffice as well. What you can see on here, you could download via torrent, or you could download directly the zip file from there. And then the big thing here is to look at this SHA-1 hash that you have down here. And what this hash will do for you is once you download the zip file, you can run it through your hash locally on your Mac operating system and verify that nothing's been tampered with. Alright, now I've taken the luxury of actually downloading the operating system ahead of time, so we didn't have to wait on that. So we're just going to navigate now to our download section. And as you can see from here, I downloaded the zip file itself here. And now we're going to actually launch our command prompt, our command terminal, and verify that the hashing is the same on both the what they have as far as the hash on the website and what we have here locally. Alright, to do this on your Mac operating systems, it's pretty easy because this runs natively on your system. So we're just going to type SHA sum, and then we'll do -a1, and then we'll navigate to where the file is actually at. PWD, hold on a second. Okay, CD downloads. What is the file? 2016 zip. So we're running it through our hash. So we're rehashing it. So it's not necessary to check the whole thing. You can take a look at the last few characters just to verify. And what we can see from here, 09D46, 09D46, and then you can verify the front end, E0EBB, E0, E0EBB. Alright, so we know that the integrity of our zip file has not been compromised according to this hashing and how the hashing algorithm works. So now that we have that, a couple of things I do want to show you is the actual layout of what I have configured. So for our next step in our agenda, we're gonna actually get that image onto the SD card. But I kind of wanted to show you guys what the architecture looked like on what I have going. So here I have the laptop, the Mac here in the center, and off the Mac I'm powering the Raspberry Pi 3 via the USB on the Mac system itself, and then I have the Ethernet connection plugging right into the Mac. From there, I'm leveraging my internet services actually coming through my wireless access card, and then going out into the internet. So now that you have an idea of the architecture that we're using right now and how we're able to um, work with our Raspberry Pi locally without having an additional network connection. All right, from there we're going to navigate over to our utilities, and then we're going to look at disk utility. From here you can see that the micro USB is plugged into the system itself. So we'll eject it here. Once it goes gray, we'll be able to actually do an erase on the card itself. Okay, there we go. So now it's, as you can see, it's kind of grayed out a little bit, and I'm using a 32 gig micro SD card itself. There are really there's some real good ones out there that have higher read write speeds and capabilities. So pick something, and definitely any generic micro SD card will work for this as well. After we get it into the system and we eject it, we're going to go ahead and erase it. The format really doesn't matter. Only reason being is we're going to actually write the IMG file to it, so it'll rewrite the whole disk in itself. Alright, while this is formatting, we're going to go ahead and pause the video for a minute and we'll resume here shortly. Okay, we're back now. So it's done erasing, and now we're going to eject it once more. Alright, what you want to take a look at when you go back to the SD card, you want to take a note as to the device down here. As you can see, it says disk 2 on the bottom right hand corner, and that's necessary for you to know what that is in order for us to write the media to the disk itself. Right. So we're done here. We can close this window out, minimize this. Now we're going to go back to our command prompt. Alright, so in order for us to really get the operating system from the IMG over to the disk, we're going to leverage the DD command, which comes natively with your Mac operating system in itself. So there's no additional programs you have to install in order to leverage this this program that already runs on your system. Of course, you do have to run it as an administrator, so the sudo command is necessary. So the import file we're using is the Raspberry. As you can see, I unzipped it, and what we have is the .img file, and the output is going to be the dev. And make sure you put rdisk2, and then the byte size 1 meg to kind of speed things up. Type in your admin password. Alright, and now it's running. And while this is copying over, what we're going to do, we're going to actually go set up the internet sharing now. In order to set up the internet sharing, we're going to use the system. We're going to go into system preferences. In the system preferences, you're going to have sharing. Right here, you're going to take a look at share your internet connection from. So what we want to share from is our Wi-Fi. Alright, to computers using, so my Raspberry Pi is connected to my Ethernet interface via this Thunderbolt connection here. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to turn the service on. Right here you get a caution. You are sharing. Are you sure you want to turn on the internet sharing? Blah 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 blah. So go ahead and start, and then we're up and running. Now, if you navigate to your networks, and what you're going to see, you should see this Thunderbolt connection. What you'll see, this Thunderbolt Ethernet connection will come up as yellow once we actually get the Raspberry Pi booted up. Okay. So what we'll do, we'll go ahead and pause this for right now, and when the OS is completed, I will bring it back. I will bring you guys back. All right, now we're back. As you can see now, we're showing the records in, records out, the transfer, and this is a result of us actually leveraging the DD command to get the IMG file over to the micro SD card. So we're pretty much done with that. From there, we're going to navigate back to your disk utility, and as you can see now, it went from it now says boot on your micro SD card. So we'll go ahead and eject this card, and as you can notice that we're not using the entire SD card in itself. So we'll actually show you how to expand and leverage the whole SD card when we actually boot up the Raspberry Pi. And that's where we're going to next. So we'll go ahead and eject. And we're now inserting the micro SD card into the Raspberry Pi. After we insert the micro SD card into the Raspberry Pi, we'll then boot the Raspberry Pi itself. Okay, the Raspberry Pi is now booting up. Just to remind you again, this is the architecture of our little project here for our how-to, where we're showing the power cable actually plugging into the laptop via USB, and the Ethernet connection going into ETH0 on your Mac. Alright, we'll go back here, and this is expressing what I was talking about earlier, where you'll see your Thunderbolt Ethernet interface come up as self-assigned, which is fine, but I'll show you actually how to get the IP address of your Raspberry Pi so we can actually log into it with the default username and password. So to really get the IP address of your Raspberry Pi, the boot up shouldn't take that long. I've timed it, and it usually takes anywhere from 30 to 45 seconds for the Raspberry Pi 3 on the Raspbian OS itself, which is pretty quick, not too bad. So we're going to type in ifconfig on your command line, and what you want to do, you want to look down here where it shows your bridged interface. Find the IP address of that bridge interface. Alright, we see the 192.168.2.1. Your Raspberry Pi will actually be incremented up by 1. So when we actually try to ping, we're going to try and ping the 192.168.2.2, and we should get a response back. As you can see, we're getting a response back. That means the Raspberry Pi 3 is up, and we're getting responses from it. So now we're going to try to log into the device itself. So the default login for your Raspberry Pi, username is Pi, password is Raspberry, and of course it leverages port 22 for the SSH session. Alright, now that we're logged in, first thing you want to do is the sudo command. Um, and do the raspi config command, and this is what we'll get. So as you can see, step one, we're going to go ahead and expand the file system. So we're using the entire SD card. Hit enter. It says root partition has been resized, and then of course this is going to actually require a reboot in order for it to take effect. But we're going to go through and change up some things in here before we actually go through the reboot process. Change username, user password. Um, I always recommend changing any default passwords on any of your devices. Um, whether it's in a lab environment or in a production environment. And the reason I say that is because sometimes we have a tendency of taking things from our lab environment and integrating them with the production. So it's always you know it's always good for you to have those practices in mind. So as you can see down here, it's saying enter the new password. So we're gonna type in our password. All right, password change was successful. All right, boot options. Nothing much to change in here, so we're good on this. Now enable camera. You want to enable. I always go through and enable this because a lot of my projects I leverage the camera itself. Um, international options, time zone, U.S. Central. All right, and then also Wi-Fi country. US. Alright, and the last thing, your keyboard layout. Give it a second. Alright, perfect. Now, what we want to do here is under advanced options. Take a look at advanced options, and we could actually change the host name um, to whatever you would like. And then we'll select OK. Going back under the advanced options, we'll also have the memory split configuration that we can leverage for splitting off the GPU, how much memory your GPU is going to use versus your operating system. I usually set this to 64 megs. Really doesn't require that much, and I'd rather have more memory for the operating system to run its services. Once that is done, go back under advanced options, and at the very bottom, here it is, VNC. We're going to enable VNC so we can run VNC natively. And then the last thing here under advanced options is your update. Selecting your update. Now your Raspberry Pi is running through its updates. And we'll go back to our agenda here. I showed you how to expand your SD card, change your hostname, password, update and upgrade, and I will demonstrate the VNC here now. Here's my VNC viewer. The IP address of the Raspberry Pi is the 192.168.2.2. We'll attempt to connect to that. Right now it says VNC server identity check failed. We'll go ahead and continue, and it's prompting for the username and password, and now it would be the password, the new password that we assigned to it. And there you have it. So now you're able to get to the desktop of your Raspberry Pi to leverage some of those GUI applications. And as you can see from here, we are now done with the initial configuration. So we'll go ahead and finish, and then we will do a sudo reboot. Log out of here. We'll do a sudo reboot, and that concludes the initial configuration for your Raspberry Pi 3. You have many projects out here on the Raspberry websites that you can go down and look in the community to see what's out there. Have fun. Thank you.